right, ladies and germs, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read chapter 2, Ancient Athens, to you. I will stop periodically and we will talk about some of your terms that I really find, I really feel that are very important. So listen up and follow along, all right? So, and if you are using your computer PDF, that is absolutely fine with me. If you're using your book, that's fine, like your handheld. I gotta let it load up a little bit, I guess. All right. So we already read about the ancient Greek city-states, and you've all been assigned your own city-state. And so Athens, you're next. This is not a very long chapter. It's only about 8 pages. Come on, pumpkin. It's taking its time to load. One thing that I find that was really cool about Athens is obviously we see that this is going to be the birthplace of democracy, of the vote of the people, power of the people, power to the people. Instead of having, like in ancient city-states, you had kings or dictators. Sometimes you might have the richest of the families, the aristocracies, that would make all of the decisions. Sometimes, like in Sparta, you would have the warrior kings that would be in charge. That would be called an oligarchy, where you had just a handful of people that would make the decision for the masses. It seems like it's taking a little bit of time. So what I might do while it's doing that is I will pull up your terms and start going over them. When we talk about the assembly, what you're really referring to is the group of people, the group of decision makers, okay? Now, even though everybody in Athens, when I say everybody in Athens, I'm talking about males that owned property and were over 18 and were born in Athens. You people that met those qualifications, you could vote, okay? You had a voice. However, if you have 10,000 people that meet these qualifications, can they really get together and have votes? It makes it very difficult, right? So what they would actually do is a lot of times they would pick people to represent them. Have you ever heard of a representative democracy? We have one here in the United States, right? We're a republic that has representative democracy, okay? So we actually have people who we pick to go to Washington, D.C. for us. Because imagine if everybody in the United States went to D.C. to vote. It would be crazy, right? So we pick representatives. And so that's where they will meet and they will make decisions. Now, here's an interesting term sometimes, and it's not used as much as it used to be, but the term ostracize. Ostracize means to shun somebody. You know what shunning means? Like to ignore or to distance yourself from that person. And how you would ostracize somebody, let's say here in the assembly, you had a large group and you were all trying to vote, but each day you had a troublemaker by the name of Mason. Or let's just say, I'm just picking that name out of the air, of course. You know, I'm not pointing at anybody in particular. All right. So you have this troublemaker, and each day maybe he comes in late, maybe he comes in drunk. I'm saying these were actual issues at the time. Maybe he was caught stealing. Maybe he had a business and he wasn't treating employees right. He was stealing from them or something like that. You had the opportunity as the assembly to kick him out or to ostracize him for all the way up to 10 years. They had a large pot in the middle of the assembly called an ostracon. And since paper wasn't a prevalent thing at the time, what they would do is they would take pieces of broken pottery and they would scratch the name on there. And if enough people wrote the name Mason on there and they dropped it in the ostracon, Athens would kick them out for 10 years. Think about that for a minute. 10 years. He could not come back into Athens. Now, when he comes back after 10 years, I mean, they don't take all of his property or anything. They give it back to him. They hold it for him. But nevertheless, yeah, he can be kicked out for that long of a time. Now, you also have other groups. Now, you have this assembly that's made up of representatives for the people, but then you have what is called a boule. Did anybody define that word? Now, look at it. It's boule, not boule or boule or buell. So what does boule mean?
Boule means a party of over about 100 citizens that vote kind of like what the assembly does.
Yes. You have an assembly of about 1,000 people, and then you have a boule, which is smaller, a smaller group of representatives that make more important decisions. Okay. Now, next word here, strategoi. Well, it sounds a lot like another word that we use quite often. What is that other word? Yes, sir. Strategy. Who usually strategizes?
Generals.
Generals. Good. So the boule is actually a group of about 7 to 10 generals, and they would meet and make military decisions. Okay. They were over the army and the navy. Okay. The Athenians, even though, we always talk about how tough the Spartans were, right? On land, they were extremely tough. But who was the best at sea? It was the Athenians by far. They had the greatest navy. They had these big ships, right? And these big ships were called triremes. And they would literally, they had like this battering ram on the front, and then you would row, and they would literally ram into their enemies. They were very, very effective in battle. Metics, Metics. Jack, did you define that one yet?
Yeah.
What is a metic?
Medic is foreigners who played an important role in Athenian economy.
Yes, medics, and some medics could be very rich, okay? They were outsiders. They were not Athenian, but they may have lived in Athens, okay? But they were not Athenian. Most of the time, those people would have been like merchants and traders, okay? They live in the city of Athens, but they don't have the rights to vote and all of those things. But they do play a big part in the economy because they're bringing in maybe spices or silks or all of these other things into Athens. Okay. Yes, sir.
Didn't some of them eventually from living in Athens become a citizen?
If you were rich enough, if you were a medic and you were rich enough, you could buy citizenship. Okay. Was it common? It wasn't really that common because it was expensive. Okay. It wasn't like, today, if you wanted to naturalize to another country, if you wanted to become a citizen of another country, it's not like it would cost you all kinds of money. Okay. I guess in a way, it probably could cost you a lot of money. But at that time, you had to purchase your way in. Okay. Now let's talk about the education system in Athens at this time. Okay. Education really revolved around a couple of things, and this should look very familiar to you since we are a classical academy. We concentrate on the same things. Okay. One is rhetoric. Rhetoric is basically, this is sort of funny, and some of you guys should have like a college degree in this, because rhetoric is basically the study of arguing. Okay? The study of arguing. The study of how to effectively argue, though. Okay? It's not just arguing like, that's blue. Oh, no, it's not. It's red. No, not like that. I am talking about being able to effectively formulate an argument. Okay? Yes, sir.
Like giving proof about your facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't just like. I wish our current media would have to study rhetoric a lot more. Okay, because like you just said, basing things in fact, not on hearsay. Yes, sir.
Like two 5-year-olds arguing about which Ninja Turtle was better.
That would be Raphael. All right.
Okay.
Logic. Logic. What does logic mean? Anybody? Can anybody help me with that?
I know it.
Yes, sir. Did you not do that one yet? Okay. Who has done it? John Paul?
Logic is the study of ways of thinking and making well-reasoned arguments.
A well-reasoned argument. A well-reasoned argument. A well-reasoned argument is not going to be based upon one side. You must study all sides in order to formulate that idea. Yes, sir.
Example. So Michigan looks like hamburger helper.
What the
That's
All right.
an argument. If you want to declare that, look at it. It looks like hamburger.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue. All right. Okay, ready? A lot of times, now you guys might find this really interesting. A lot of times the students, and they were males, by the way, girls. The students were male students. Girls were taught in a completely different way. The male students would have what is called a symposium, where they would get together and they would argue philosophical concepts. Okay, things like this: what is good, or what was the beginning? What is the end? How should I live my life? Let's see here. What was the saying about an unexamined life is not worth living? Okay. In other words, these guys would get together and probably drink too much wine. These students would probably get together and they'd probably eat too much food and they would argue, but they had to effectively argue. Okay. This was these were symposiums. We still have symposiums to this day. I mean, without the wine, of course, that would be pretty bad. But you would see people get together and they would come up with ideas and topics in which to debate. You know what debate means, right? Right now, we're probably seeing way too many of them on television between the presidential candidate and the incumbent president.
And us debate about science.
Yes, we can debate in this classroom. And here's another term: epic poems. I put this one on here intentionally for you. Yes, sir.
I know.
Okay, tell me what it is.
A long poem that tells the story of a hero's adventures.
Yeah, it is. It's a long story, but you know what they would do? Like, we understand the term fiction, right? Everybody understands the term fiction, and we also know the term nonfiction. Well, a lot of times they would write history almost in a fictional manner, because for many, 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 many years, we always assumed that the Iliad, remember the story about the Trojan War and the horse, the wooden horse, and okay, we always assumed that was just a fake story, right? Well, come to find out, there really was a Troy. Okay, we found it, and that was not on the mainland Greece, but it was on Asia Minor. Sort of like, remember, I assigned you Miletus, and I assigned you Ephesus. Okay, that is Asia Minor. So it would have been very close to that area right there, probably like the area of Pergamum, that area. So yes, it was really fascinating. Okay, because they would mix the two. All right, let's see here. I think I've already answered a lot of these, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the subjects taught in school? They would always be athletics. Okay, what else? They would always study rhetoric, logic. What else?
Military.
Military tactics. Good. Mathematics.
Rhetoric.
Yep, rhetoric. Yep. And well, very good. And I think we've already answered all of these, except for this one here. How did the Athenian juries differ from American juries? What's that, Dylan?
So like Athens juries had like 501 people in a single jury. The Americans had like 20 or 10.
Yep. We could have up to 20, all the way down to 7, I think, in the United States, or 5 in some very rural areas. Yes, sir?
In Athenian juries, their vote didn't have to be unanimous.
That's
Our
right.
Jury, their vote has to be unanimous.
That's right. In America, we need a unanimous decision. Yes, sir?
What's unanimous?
Unanimous means everyone agrees.
Oh, so it's like not the jury.
Yeah, in here we have 12 people, right? In this classroom, we have 12 people. So that's the size of a jury, okay? if everybody except for Kalen agreed, it doesn't count. That would be called a hung jury. Everybody has to agree, okay? But at that time, with the jury sizes, you couldn't do unanimous, because if you had 500 people on a jury, you're going to find at least one person that probably is not going to agree. So you could never do unanimous. So you would do majority rule, okay? All right, well, that's going to cover it for Athens. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, and we will talk more about Sparta in the next section. Well, how do I shut it off? Oh, here it is. My bad. Bye, guys.